Good evening and welcome along to the NUFC360 podcast. My name is Stuart Montgomery and I am tonight joined by Max, Joel, Matt and special guest Adam. Good evening, gents. How are you all doing?
All good.
All good. All good.
Fantastic. We'll get started straight away. All those watching, thanks so much for tuning in and watching along tonight. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so we can really grow the NUFC360 channel and get your comments in there. We'll do our level best to reply to them and get you comments read out for everyone to see. Gentlemen, our first topic is something that no one has mentioned at all over the past couple of days, and it is VAR. Obviously, the incident at the weekend, incidents plural, I should say, at the weekend involving Newcastle and a myriad of other clubs has drawn VAR to our attention once more for all the wrong reasons, with the goal that never was for Joe Willock against Crystal Palace. So my first question, and I'm going to fire to you, Matt, is the goal, the incident. Just what is your view of it? What was your view on the day? And how do you feel about it?
To be honest, I don't know how they come to these decisions. I do feel like as though the people that are making the decisions surely haven't actually played the game, because I don't know how they can look at that and think that is not a goal, or the way Willock got fouled and pushed into. I think it was Dermot Gallagher saying it was either there was a foul to Newcastle United and a penalty. Well, surely if there's an advantage there from the foul, which there was, it should have stood. But look, I've always said the same thing. VAR, that's not the problem. It's the people making the decisions, and we've seen now week after week. VAR is getting a lot of correct decisions. But the people making it are causing problems that aren't problems. It's been week after week now, and it seems to be getting worse every week. Willock's should have stood. I don't know how it didn't stand, and it must be very frustrating for a lot of the Newcastle fans.
Adam, you were there, obviously, at the game. What was your feeling at the time? Did the people around you, did they feel something was wrong? Did you feel something was up, or it might be chalked off, or was it just the initial elation of a goal? What was the atmosphere of the ground like when the goal went in and then afterwards?
Well, everyone thought it was a goal, despite the fact that, VAR was on the monitor, the referee's got to go and check. Everyone still thought it was a goal. My first initial response as well, I've seen a Crystal Palace player push you at the goalkeeper. It has to be a goal. So, as Matt said before, VAR is not the problem at all. VAR did exactly what it was supposed to do there. So the referee has given the goal, which at the time, to be fair to the referee, was the correct call. Now, VAR's job there was to check to make sure that the goal should have stood. It's done exactly that, but the problem is that the referees looked at the monitor, and for one, VAR shouldn't have really taught the referee to go at the monitor because there was no clear and obvious error there. And then the referee's got the monitor, and for whatever reason, he's decided to change his mind. He said that Joe Willock fouled the goalkeeper and it's a Palace free kick. It's just ludicrous. You can obviously see that he's been pushed into the goalkeeper. So how that stood, I never know. Now, I've also seen quite a lot of people say it's Newcastle bias, but if you watched your matches throughout the weekend, nearly every single game had a stupid decision in there. The Coutinho one, for example, why is that an offside? You had a West Ham one as well. It was just ludicrous, some of the choices over the weekend. So it's hopefully now it's a call where the Premier League sit down and just go, well, all this shouldn't have happened. We've got to sort this out. But the fact is, it's probably not going to change because we've said this so many times, and unfortunately, it just keeps popping back up. But yeah, the goal should have stood, the most important part, and everyone was livid in the stadium.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you there. I think that's really sound reasoning. Joel, in terms of, Adam mentioned it there. He's mentioned some of the incidents, and to bring up a couple here, I'm going to fire a few at you and Max and others in terms of incidents that have happened in Newcastle just so far this season. So we've got the Wilson, the high foot against Brighton, which, in your opinion, Joel, if I give you three here, can you tell me if any of them you feel VAR got correct? Because they were all judged to be fouls. So I'll give you three. Wilson is the high foot versus Brighton. Okay. The Schär pull against Man City. And then the Longstaff pull against Wolves. Sorry, it wasn't a pull on Schär, it was a jump. He jumped on top of him. Any of them fouls for you?
I think the Longstaff and Schär ones were pretty evidently fouls, in my opinion. The Wilson one, again, I'd probably sway that it probably was. that like we should have been allowed. But I mean, that was the closest one, so I can see how that was given. Like I wasn't as annoyed about that one. But I mean, on the terms of VAR, it's becoming so ubiquitous now. It's like every week there's a big decision that sways, a result for a team. And I just feel like we've been hit, especially like considerably worse than other teams. So yeah, it's really not ideal. And I'm glad they have kind of came out and apologized, but that's really not good enough, is it? 'Cause I mean, 3 weeks time there'll be another one, and then it's just a vicious cycle.
What do you think will happen off the back of that, Joel? I mean, do you think anything will happen?
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, but I can't see this ever happening. Would be
don't say points.
Yeah, well, it's not. I'm not happen. That was in an ideal world, yes, but no.
Yeah,
they could just they need obviously Howard Webb's coming in and coming from North America. I think he was in charge of some organization there. Lee Mason has, he's been dropped for this week's fixtures, which is the right thing to do. I mean, it's not the first decision he's got wrong, so he's rightfully been dropped. And I think they need a big regroup and just sort of like a big discussion on, how to go forward, because it's just not acceptable.
Well, I'll round out the other other 3 incidents that have just been so far this season with Max, and I've purposely picked these ones for you, Max, for no reason whatsoever. The first one is the Isak offside against Liverpool. Then it's the 97 minutes, so the extra added time against Liverpool, and then finally, the foul or non-foul for Joe Willock against Crystal Palace. Did VAR get any of those correct, in your opinion?
Well, I'm getting so tired of thinking about it, because it just drains energy to think about decisions going against you. And to be honest, I'm just feeling right now to like move on from these decisions, and hopefully in the end these kind of things often even out at the end of the season. They balance out. We get some decisions for us, and then against us, and then it moves on. But if I'm gonna say, well, the Isak offside one really hurt because it was such a good goal, and it was a weird angle because I think people compared it to Rashford's goal, which was quite similar offside position, but it's so weird because the camera angle is different and the draw the lines different, and it's really hard to tell. From one angle, it looked like his upper body was offside, and from one angle, it looked like it wasn't. So it's really hard.
It's another thing about those angles, isn't it, Max? Because you look at the angles that they didn't look at on Saturday. They only looked at one angle. You look at the angle they looked at even against Liverpool with the Isak second goal. They drew one line. BT showed it for about. Obviously wasn't at the game. I was watching it. They drew one line. It was on the screen for seconds and it was gone. No one even looked at it again. Whereas for the Rashford, they were looking at it again and again and again. They were checking it and giving all these extra ones. Matt, and this is a bit of a broad question. Is there a conspiracy against, and I'm going to broaden it slightly, I'm not going to say just Newcastle because people will think we're in tinfoil hats. Is there a conspiracy against the non-Big Six clubs in the Premier League, in your opinion?
I mean, it's really hard to believe that there isn't. It seems to be a lot of decisions seem to be swinging in favour of the Big Six, which I don't know if it seems to be a coincidence or not, but I'm not one of these who believes in conspiracies, but it really is hard to believe that it isn't. It just seems to be happening week after week, or over the past few seasons, really. And now more teams in the other 14 teams are being affected by it. It's actually really coming into the sport now. It's evidently, it seems to be happening more to us than others, but now you've got the likes of West Ham and Aston Villa and others getting involved in it now. It seems like a problem that needs to be highlighted. So hopefully it does.
Adam, again, a bit of a broad one for you. How would you fix VAR? And the answer could be to remove it completely. It could be to change it. What would be your ideal situation, or moving forward point for for the use of VAR now?
Improving the officiating. It's that simple. Get better referees and get better people who know how to run VAR. You've seen at the Euros, for example. I thought VAR worked pretty much flawlessly at the Euros. When I remember watching it, I didn't remember any clear and cut massive errors that was in it. So it can work properly. It's just the people that run it. And I think in the Premier League especially, we have people that just don't understand how VAR works. it's just so odd when you watch different leagues to the Premier League. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it hasn't translated properly or something, but we just don't really know how to use VAR. And as for the officials, we've said it over so many years, they are rubbish. There's a reason why none of them will be going to the World Cup this year. And it's just how it is with them. So, yeah, it's just a matter of making sure people understand VAR properly. I think that's what we got in this country, especially in the Premier League. We just don't know how VAR works properly compared to our places. It's weird. It's quite a strange one.
Would you like to see, Adam, a more varied type of person being involved? Not just referees, but there's been talk of potentially ex-players, ex-managers, just people who are involved at a different level in the game. Would you like to see that sort of thing being involved in those decisions?
Well, it depends. Obviously, I mean, with ex-players and ex-managers, they can be quite biased towards teams, so that's quite about. But I mean, we'll see. I'm hoping the VAR system as a whole becomes a lot more open for people. I know, especially in stadiums, for example, the outright don't show VAR at all to anyone anymore. So I'm hoping the clarity a bit more in the future is clear for fans and clear for people why. For example, a referee interview. I want to hear why the referee decided that Joe Willock's goal wasn't the goal. I think that'd be great for fans, so we can either bash the referee or bash VAR, so we know where the errors came from. I think that's not clear at the minute, so that is something I would personally look for.
No, that's a really good answer. I mean, you've hit upon something I was going to mention, which is the accountability. And I'm from Ireland, and rugby's very popular over here, as is football. But in rugby, obviously, everyone's mic'd up, or the refs are mic'd up, and it gives you such an insight. You very rarely have incidents like this in rugby because they're always mic'd up. There's that accountability. You can consistently hear the decision making going on. Even the players, you can hear them as well. So I don't know why the refs aren't mic'd up, and especially if they're having to go to Stockley Park or go to somewhere else for these decisions. It just makes complete sense. There'd be some accountability there. There'd be, that's what I would change. Is I'd have them mic'd up at the very least. Joel, same for you then. How would you fix it? It might be the same as Adam, but how would you fix it?
I mean, obviously the officiating's got to become better. I 100% agree with the transparency thing. If refs, were mic'd up, it would at least help. It's not necessarily the solution, but then you'd at least gain a sort of understanding from why they make certain decisions. And I think as well, I was reading in the Times, Henry Winter was saying maybe add something like a 90-second limit to each sort of decision. And then it's not going to be as fastidious. They're not going to be picking out little faults that realistically shouldn't be analysed. And, this in like the sort of sense that a striker should always be given the benefit of the doubt. So I think, something like a time limit, not as sort of fussy with little sort of flows in mic'd up would definitely help.
Bro, can you help me out with that? The 90, I only heard about it. I didn't actually read it, or I didn't get much more detail. What did he mean about 90 seconds? Did he mean that you can only judge things within 90 seconds on the pitch, or you only have 90 seconds to make the judgment?
I think
Joel, sorry.
Oh yeah. I think it was so once a decision has went to VAR looking at something, they only get 90 seconds to then make a decision whether it's allowed or disallowed, and then it stops.
Because what they said, it was clear and obvious, and if you can't see something within 90 seconds, it's not clear and obvious. Then that was the whole point of VAR. It has to be clear and obvious, and if it's not, then doesn't matter. Before we come to you, Max, some interesting comments there. Thanks so much, folks, for getting the comments in. Black Mamba, welcome back, Black Mamba. Feel very much that the refs and staff aren't being trained properly. Exactly what Adam is saying there in how to use it. When and how to use VAR and how long to study the footage. Again, going on what Joel is saying. No plot from them against us. Some fans think I'm inclined to agree. I don't think there's a plot. I think it's just awful officiating, which is very interesting. Max, just to round out this topic then, in terms of those instances that I gave you, what do you think is the worst, the most egregious one that's happened to Newcastle so far? Is it the Joe Willock one, or is it a previous one that's sort of irked you, or if you've adjudged to be the worst mistake by VAR?
No, definitely the Joe Willock one. That was the most clear, bad decision they've made. The other ones, sure, they have some poor officiating in that too. But for me, the Joe Willock one was just, that left me so angry. I was angry for 3 days after. I've only just now calmed down about it. and now we're bringing it up again.
Is it your
I'm
therapy,
feeling
Max?
flustered. Yeah,
Wait, we'll
and I
move
hate
on.
it.
Yeah, carry on.
I hate to have that feeling after a game where I'm angry at something that doesn't really have to do with how the game was played in a way, because it was, you want to be angry maybe at your team performance because they didn't turn up, or maybe they just played badly. But in this case, I'm just angry about people making stupid decisions when they don't need to do that. So it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is. And I think, we're all very frustrated by that. We'll move on then before you start throwing things in anger. And we'll move on to the squad. So the next sort of topic is about our squad depth, and just the more broad topic of, do we lack quality in squad depth? And I'll be honest with you, I think, you please correct me if I'm wrong, I think we all agree that we do lack quality in our depth. That's probably an assumption there. I don't think anyone's going to disagree on that. We're at the start of our journey here, building this squad up to being real, let's call it Champions League quality up there at the moment. So we'll probably do. What I want to know, and I'll start with you, Matt, is in terms of positions on the pitch, what area of the pitch is of the least concern to you and why? So where do you think we've got the most squad depth?
Yeah. To be honest, I know they're looking at bringing another central midfielder in, but I'd probably say central midfielder, possibly centre half.
Okay. Why?
I just feel like we have a better depth in those positions. I feel like Dan Burns hard done by to not make the starting 11. He didn't put a foot wrong when he came in last season. Yeah. So we got centre half. I feel like Jamal Lascelles did a job when he came in against Liverpool. So I do feel like we have got a good depth in that position. Central midfield, we probably could do with an extra one, but if you compare it to the other positions where you've got out wide, we should have really brought in a winger and possibly a fullback, because if Emil Kraft's gone out now, but if we get injured on either side of the fullback positions, then I think we'll be struggling. But I do feel like the strongest positions are central midfield and centre back.
Adam, would you agree or would you disagree? What would your strongest position be in terms of squad depth?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree that centre mid and centre backs are two huge ones now. We haven't got many players in this position, but I do think the striker is also very strong. I mean, we've got two top level strikers. So, we only played one in the starting 11, so if we need any more than two, then we're going to be in a bit of a crisis this season. But now, it's actually not a record signing. Then we've got Callum Wilson, who's a dedicated goal scorer that we know can get double figures if he stays fit. So, yeah, I think the striker's quite strong as well. Now, I know people aren't the biggest fan of Chris Will, but still got Elliot Anderson, if we really need to potentially put Sim Maxman up top in that sort of situation. So I've got quite a few players that can put in that role. So, yeah, for me, I think the striker is also quite strong due to the fact we only have one in our starting 11.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Max, come to you next. And I'll change the question slightly. It's the opposite one, really. What is your area of most concern in terms of position in the squad and squad depth?
I'd say probably wingers and defensive midfielder. The wingers, because I don't think Murphy or Ritchie holds the, maybe even Fraser holds the standards of the Premier League. So that's an area of concern, and also because when the new owners took over, from the January transfer window to the summer now, they've built from the back. So they've brought in a lot of center backs, defensive players, some midfielders, and lastly they brought on Alexander Isak and Chris Wood, of course. So they have only brought in 2 attackers and no wingers as of yet. But so I would say wingers and defensive midfielders most, because I don't think, other than Shelby, I don't like Bruno there as much as maybe some other people do. I like him more forward because he can pick out the final ball, which some of our midfielders can't. We have really good engines in Joe Linton and Joe Willock, but not the final pass. And for me, Sean Longstaff also is more like a forward advanced midfielder. So the only defensive midfielder in my mind that's really like suited to play that role is Shelby, and he's injured right now. So I would say defensive midfielder and wingers.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been lucky with injuries. We really have been. So I think it has exposed some of the maybe lack of depth. But a lot of people their squads haven't needed to worry about that. They haven't had the same amount of injuries. Joe, round that off then slightly, just from your point of view, what positions are you the most concerned with in terms of squad depth?
I'd probably agree and say sort of central midfield in again depth and wingers is very, very lacking. Because I mean, you've got people running out of energy in the 75th onwards minutes, and Murphy's coming on, and he's just not good enough. He needs to go at the end of the season. In midfield as well, when you've got Sean Longstaff starting, it's that time of podcast. It's the time of podcast when I slate Longstaff like I do everyone. But I am going to again. He's not good enough. But yeah, central midfield, there needs to be, again, I'll agree with Max and go with CDM to allow Bruno, more space going forward, because he is so good at that. I think I was reading before he joined, actually, he had the most completed passes into the final third out of every midfielder in Europe, sorry. So I think that's going to benefit with attack so much if we do grant him sort of attacking mobility. So yeah, I'd say central midfielders and right and left wing as well.
Yeah, I mean they're all pretty. Kyle in the comments slightly disagrees with you, Joel. Not massively though, saying he was granted Sean has been decent in the last 2 games.
He played all right last game, but
yeah, he's been okay. I'm sort of on your side in a lot of things, Joel. With this, in the past, I certainly agree with you. I just think he hasn't shown the promise that he showed all those years ago. But he has been okay. He's definitely fulfilling a role. But I think it's all about that jump up of quality. And I like likes the Longstaff and Murphy, really good professionals. They work really hard when they go on the pitch. Just don't have it. I just don't think they have it. I want an answer from all of you in this one, gentlemen. And it's an interesting one because I suppose we're trying to think about that squad depth. And I'm trying to think of, for each position, the best player in that position and then the worst player in that position and then the gulf between those two. So I'll give you a good example of one in a second, and what position you think has that largest gulf between our very best player in that position and the worst. So for example, one where there's not much of a gulf in my opinion, or well, maybe there's a bit of a gulf actually, is probably striker. So we'll say Chris Wood and we'll say Isak, maybe Wilson, and what you'd probably have an argument on that. There's quite a big jump between those two. So what position has the largest gulf in quality from the best player in that position to, let's just say what it is, the worst player in that position, the least effective? And Max, we'll start off with you first. We'll go the other way around. Sorry to pick on you.
Okay. Well, since my boy Emil Kraft is injured, I would say the gulf between Trippier and Mankio is quite big because Trippier is so essential to our build-up play right now. He's always has the most touches, and Eddie Howe really likes using his wing-backs to start up our attacks. So for me, I would say Trippier because Mankio he's a good defensive/offensive fullback. He does the work, but as a playmaker, he hasn't the same capacity as Trippier. So I would say that is our biggest gulf in quality. And
also, you could add to that Trippier is our captain. I mean, I know he's not really, but he is our on-field captain, and he's such a good captain. You saw at the weekend him sort of shepherding Joelinton away from the referee, stopping. Joelinton's an absolute header. He was going to get a yellow card to get sent off. He's managing the team. He's geeing up players. He's talking to players. He's basically coaching them as well. We saw that when he was injured as well. He was doing a bit of coaching in the sidelines as well. Joel, we'll go backwards this time. What about you then? Your position with the largest gulf from quality?
I'd probably go for, wingers in general. I won't say a certain position because Murphy does normally play right wing, but I'm going to go Maxi and Murphy. I think that the gap between them two is just quite ridiculous. One is probably, it could be one of the best wingers in Europe if you manage to consistently produce an end product, and one probably is a borderline championship player.
Oh, that's very harsh.
I'll go plenty.
Yeah, I say it's harsh, and I'm saying it's harsh, and I'm thinking, no, he get on for, and I'm like, Fulham, no. I'm going down the list. Maybe Sunderland, possibly. Adam, what about you then?
Well, this one's harsh, to be fair, because this player is not really supposed to play for the first team, but I would say goalkeeper, because our first choice goalkeeper is Nick Pope, who you would expect, hopefully, to start for England at the World Cup. Whereas our third choice goalkeeper is Mark Gillespie, who was signed.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. That's a really good one. Yeah.
That one.
That's a great shout. I never even, I've completely, you know, that's how good a shout is. I completely forgot about Mark Lesby, so that's really good. Yeah, completely agree with that. And you know, he could and should be. Is he now our highest rated member or player on FIFA 23? Is that now confirmed?
Yeah, he's 98 rated, so you got a special.
Good card.
Yeah, very good card indeed. And Matt, what about you then?
Yeah, to be fair, I agree with everybody. I was just about to say the goalkeeper as well. Adam took it. Now, the thing is, I feel as though if you take Mark Gillespie out of it, I feel like the gap between Darlow and Pope is still quite big as well. I do feel a bit. I don't want to be too harsh on Darlow because I feel like he's done a decent job when he's come in. But I do feel like he had a few games. I think it was last season before, he was really struggling and he made quite a few mistakes. So I'd probably say, yeah, Nick Pope and Darlow.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with all you gentlemen. I could pick any one of them and be in complete agreement. Target and Dummett, I don't know. I think Target's very good. I mean, the thing is, I think left back were fairly well set. I mean, Dummett's a bit of a workhorse. He's not much class, but he works hard. Target's been good. I'm going by my countryman, Jamal Lascelles. I think he's really good. I think he should maybe hopefully get a few more games. I don't want to say Target injured, but I think he's definitely a good player. But no, really good answers, gents. We'll move on to our last topic of the evening, and it is Elliot Anderson, who has thus far started to come into the team, maybe because of injury. He's definitely in Eddie Howe's plans. He's come out and said that he is in his plans this season. The young starlet was on loan last year at Bristol Rovers. And I think we all agree he's definitely started to make an impact when he has come on. I'm going to give you his minutes so far, just in case you are interested. So he has played 3 games this season. The first one was away to Wolves, where he got 6 minutes, so not very much on the field. The second was away to Liverpool, where he also got 6 minutes. That means he came on in the 91st minute, probably. And then the last game was at the weekend, where he got his most amount of minutes. He got 20 minutes. Now, interestingly, his first game against Wolves, he played at centre mid, and then Liverpool and Palace, he came on at left mid, left wing, basically on for Fraser in that kind of role there. So you can see Eddie Howe starting to build him up a wee bit more. Matt, we'll start with you and go backward. Just your general thoughts on Anderson this season and how he's played when he's got on.
I really like him. I really do like him. I feel like it doesn't faze him. He's come on. Every time he does come on, I feel like he takes his opportunity. He's so positive with the ball. He's quite strong and physical, and he seems quite quick as well. I want to see more of him. I know Eddie doesn't probably want to chuck him straight in and throw it all in there, but I do feel like going out on loan last season has really helped him because he doesn't look out of place at all when he plays. And I can only compare it to when, Shaw Longstaff first come on the scene. He did really well on that. But if I'm comparing Anderson and Longstaff, I feel like Anderson is a level above what Longstaff was. I know it's still early days, but you can just tell his early touches on the ball when he's keeping the ball in play, dropping shoulders, going past people. He's not phased at all, and I'm really excited to see where he goes in this Newcastle team because he looks some real player.
He does. Adam, what about you? Obviously going to a lot of games and watching a lot of Newcastle. How have you felt about Anderson's continuing minutes for the team?
Well, as Matt just said there, he's been phenomenal this season. Now, Anderson's a bit of a weird one because I actually watched him quite a bit for the under-23s before you had a load of Bristol Rovers. He was always a good player. You always would say he's probably the best player in the under-23s. But he was never at that level where I felt like you could actually play for Newcastle. I always felt like he was a step down. So that loan move at Bristol Rovers just completely transformed as a player. He's got a lot of confidence now. He's able to play in front of so many fans, playing in an intense league as well, getting Bristol Rovers promoted. So that was huge for the player. He managed to play in a system that fit him quite well. So when he came back to Newcastle, and I think it was over in Austria I went to when he played Mainz, that game, especially when he played against a Bundesliga side, didn't look out of place at all. He really did like he fit the team. The way he moves with the ball, he's very good at driving up players. When you compare our midfielders, with the exception obviously Bruno and Joelinton, there's not really a midfielder you expect that can drive with the ball, be so positive and just know what to do with it. So Yeah, that was a massive one for him, and he's somebody that is going to be here long term at Newcastle. He's somebody that will get better over time. And at the minute, it's just a matter of time. I think once he gets his first score, that's when I really think he'll start to come out with shit a bit more. But he's been very good so far, despite the fact he's barely played it. Wolves nearly got a goal. He hit the crossbar, and Liverpool, he nearly had a chance at the end. Even the little minutes he's played, he looks like he's going to do something. So, yeah, definitely a player everyone wants to see play.
I think that says it all, Adam, doesn't it? I think you're right. It says it all. I didn't know off the top of my head how many minutes he'd got, but if you'd asked me before I looked it up, I would have said, he's got about a half in each game. I would have just guessed 6 minutes against Liverpool and 6 against Wolves. He did so much in those 6 minutes. So, he's definitely doing a lot. He's getting on the ball, a bit like when Bruno, I'm not comparing the two, but when he first came into the team, he was getting like 6 minutes here and 10 minutes there, and yet he was doing so much with the ball. Anderson's doing that as well. Kyle in the comments said he got so much stronger on the ball since his loan. I can't necessarily attest that. I wasn't watching him before, but he certainly has bulked up over the summer. You can see that. And I think that, that loan spell did benefit him. For reference, he only had 21 appearances for Bristol Rovers, 8 goals and 5 assists. That's a tremendous return for someone going straight, as Adam has said, straight into that league with not that much experience in terms of, big, strong players, seasoned pros, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, really good points. So, Joel, I'll come to you next. I'm going to say, just assuming ASM doesn't play, because that would be that left midfield role, he'd be up against Fraser. Does Anderson start for you against West Ham, and maybe slightly moving forward? Assuming ASM is not available, does Anderson start for you, or where do you see him playing, if at all?
Obviously, again, assuming if ASM doesn't start, because he is going to still be with starter, but 100% I'd start Anderson over Fraser. He's looked a real talent. The minutes that he has played. Obviously, done so well at Bristol, 7 goals, 6 assists, I think it was. And the Bristol fans were waxing lyrical about him. They absolutely loved him when he was there. And again, just amalgamating from what Adam just said there, he's a positive player. He gets the ball and he looks to run at people. And it's it's a really good trait to have, especially at such a young age. His ball retention, he just seems to always get out of situations where you expect the player to kind of lose the ball or give the ball away. And he seems to, keep the ball somehow. So he looks a real talent, and I'd start him over Fraser at the form he's shown so far, in especially the small amounts of minutes played.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Eddie does. Max, how about you? Would you like to see him start against West Ham? If not, why not? Or if so, why?
Yes, definitely. I think he's a really good talent. I've liked everything I've seen of him this far. The quick substitutions he's done, and as you guys say, how positive he is in his behavior. He always seems to find the final ball into the area. I thought against Palace, he always seemed to put a cross in, and that's rare because our players that play like Fraser don't do that as often. And for me, also Fraser, if we say Max is injured, Fraser off the bench is more energetic and he's a better player like towards the end of the game. We have much of energy and much pace. And it's funny about Anderson, because I was trying to think who he reminds me of as a type of player. I couldn't really find someone, and then I thought maybe Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's a bit similar to that, like strong physical, good technical ability, quite direct, not as the same as that's a big issues to fill, but the same type of player, and not necessarily like quick without the ball, but with the ball he's very powerful. So for me, I would absolutely love it to see him start, because it's also a very big victory for our academy to see an academy player start in a Premier League game. It's been a long time since, Matt Longstaff made his debut against Manchester United, which was the last academy player we had make a debut in the Premier League game. Start the Premier League game, I should say.
Yeah, Black Mamba in the comments has said that he would not like to see him start. Definitely has potential, but I would like to see him getting the experience. Not ready to start just yet. Lester's referred to he's moulded over time. And then Kyle responds with Elliot for 60 minutes and Fraser subbed in with fresh legs is dangerous, as Max and others have said there. On the last point you made there, Max, it's something I was going to ask everybody anyway. I suppose what type of player do you see Elliot Anderson turning into, or possibly already being, or what position would you like to see him play? You know, we are starting to build a very competitive, very, very able squad, and assuming he meets our expectations in terms of ability, and let's say that he does, where would you like to see him play? Would it be on that right side where he maybe could take the place of someone like Miggy over time? Do you see him replacing ASM over time, who's only 25? Matt, if you know, would you like to see him be a starter in the future? And if so, you know, what position would you like to see him play in? And, you know, what type of player do you think he'll be?
Yeah, I would. Initially, yes, I'd like to see how he gets on for the time being. But maybe he's given a bit more time to become a regular. If I was to start him in a position, I've always preferred Maxi if he played out wide on the right, then he would be on the left. Anderson on the left. But why not try Anderson on the right either side to me, because he could cut in because he's left-footed. He could cut on his left and cause problems that way, or he could play out on the left and, you know, get past his man and cross the ball in. So I'm happy either side of the forward positions, to be honest.
Yeah, Adam. I mean, same question to you. You know, would you like to see him start, and if so, where would you like to see him play in the future, and what position?
Well, one point I want to make straight: how versatile he is. There's something attacking midfield. You can play him on the wing, and you can play him striker. So, obviously, if you can just get him in any of those positions, then he could be a phenomenal player. For me personally, I would stick him on the right hand side, so where Almiron and Murphy would play. I think we lack the depth there. I do like Almiron, but he's somebody that I think he's just a bit frustrated, to be honest. I want to see him something a bit different at some point. So over time, hopefully you can sort of get Anderson in there, and I think him and Sim Maxwell on the wings could be a really good sort of threat to the opposition. So that's what I would personally play him. The midfield, I think we're fine for now, and the strike, I think we're also fine. So I think the wing would be his best bet.
That would be really tasty if you had ASM on the right. Let's assume Anderson fulfills his potential on the left, and someone like Isak or possibly Wilson up front. It's going to be scary. It's Champions League level quality. Joel, what about you then? Where would you like to see him play?
I'd probably say, based off his time at Bristol, then I'd like to see him cutting from the left. I think he's got all the sort of attributes to make a really good winger. I know he did play the majority of the under-23s in central midfield, but I think he's definitely going to be used to better effect, more forward up the pitch on either wing. But I probably would like to see him cutting from the left. And yeah, I mean, local lad, he's came through the academy. I'd love to see him in the starting 11 in the future.
Yeah, that would be lovely to see. Black Mamba saying pretty much what you're all saying, gents. Mix a winger, forward rather. I think someone Eddie can use alongside Wilson and Isak, and that's another good point that Adam's touched upon. You know, he is flexible. He will do a lot of different positions, and how likes players like that. You know, he was looking at the likes of João Pedro, and maybe we'll look at them in January. These are players that can play a variety of different positions, and they need to be adaptable. You know, to fit into Eddie's system. Jed, we're nearly finished for this evening. Just before we finish off, just slightly looking ahead, and we'll cover more of this on the match preview on NUFC360 YouTube channel before the West Ham game. Just a very brief one from you gents. A quick score prediction for the West Ham away to West Ham game, and I will start with Matt, with you.
I want to go 2-1 Newcastle. 2-1. Yeah.
Good. School scores?
Okay, so I'm going to probably go Isak and Joelinton.
Amount of yellow cards? No, we're joking. Adam, what about you?
I also think it's going to be 2-1.
Prediction for West Ham.
I'm going to go 2-1 as well. I think it'll be a narrow game.
Cool.
Now, the main part is whether...
it'll be...
Yeah. So the main part of me being is whether Bruno and Sim Max can back those two. So we'll see if those two return. I'm hoping... I'm confident Bruno will. I'm not too sure on Max because, of course, he was down in Monaco today. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, 2-1 we'll go for. Yeah,
they're a very good squad, West Ham. Made a lot of good signings, Paqueta as well, obviously. And they haven't started amazingly well. They were obviously unlucky at the weekend with their VAR debacle. They've not started amazingly well. Joe, what about you?
I think it'll be 2-0, and I'll go for Willock to get sort of justice / revenge. I think we'll go for a Willock goal and followed by Isak. 2-0.
Cool. Max, what about you?
I think a 1-1 draw. Both get the VAR penalties for consolidation for the last weekend, and Isak and Skamaka score or something like that.
Oh, he's in my fantasy football team, so yeah, I might just take that. If anyone's going to score against him, I'd like it to be him. I'm going to go with you, Max. I'm going to say as a draw. I have predicted us to win every game for the last 5, and we've won none of them, so I'm not going to predict us to win. I think we'll draw as well. I think any draw away from home, even though we seem to be the draw specialists, I think maybe a 1-1 draw will be the same. And I fancy Isak to get another goal. He's definitely getting those positions. I'm not sure he'll score for West Ham. But yes, as Kyle has said, 2-1, Isak and Anderson. That would be just lovely. Let's hope that can happen. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this evening. That was a really good discussion on lots of stuff that's helped us all with a bit of group therapy, especially with VAR nonsense, and it made me look forward to the game at the weekend. For those watching, thank you so much for watching all your comments. It really, really helps. And we will see you all on the match preview before the West Ham game. Thanks very much. Bye now.